Welcome everyone to today's meeting and event where I want to do like the same thing as last week. I think that our last event last Saturday was a success, and therefore we want to keep that with today's meeting about just about F1 8. So instead of ask me anything about every first module that you want to hear or you want to study about. Today, we just want to talk about a single module from it. And this could be one of the most challenging one, especially when it is a CR module where students are quite concerned for their writing and also how to construct an answer. So today, I will answer every of your concerns. Of course, we shall have an overlook of FM8 before we do that. So for today, then here are something that I can answer about the preparation tips, about how to construct the answer, how to provide an answer that attracts the highest score, and the guideline for specific questions. And I also prepare a list of potential questions for Form 8. So you can see them here. For the first question, the most likely question tend to be about the stages of procurement cycle. It is quite basic, and most of the time, students are quite good at it. But we have the second question, second type question. It was asked recently in July about the benefits of written policies, processes, or in other words, we have the benefits and risk of structured procurement process, but mostly the benefits. With the second question, we have a long list of potential ones. So there could be questions about the benefits of precise specification. There could be one on tendering process, or could be on market analysis too, or about contract management measures, or about the benefits of relationship management, or about the credit terms. And most importantly, I've also include here, maybe we can see a question about analyzing financial ratio and making comment on that. For the third question, it is also quite basic. Mostly we have a question about the elements of whole life acoustic, but sometimes there could be some deviation. For example, about the decommissioning and disposal process, or about how to convince the senior management and getting their support, or about the hidden costs in international sourcing. For the final question, most recently they tend to ask about the sourcing options or activities that may boost ESG impact from an organization. So we can implement a lot of measures and introduce quite many ways to improve the ESG impact. But we still have some questions about SIP code conduct or how to prevent bribery, corruption, and fraud in procurement. So this is just an overview, and I don't think my little question here is exhausted. You can still write further questions and even out the book questions about FM8. We need to prepare for every case possible. So this is necessary, and I just want to have you before you sit for next exam in November. Now, it's the time for questions. You can either raise your hand or you can type your question in the chat so that I can answer them. All right, now I'm waiting for the question. You can ask for anything regarding about it, about how to construct an answer, how to prepare for the exam, and about how to provide the answer for specific topic or question. I just list all the questions. So anyone wants to talk about the stages of procurement cycle or about different ways to manage the contract. Feel free to write your question. So today still ask me anything. Therefore, feel free and you can ask any. Is there any question about ship procurement cycle, like tips to remember them, or how you can construct the specific answer for certain stage? Okay, I can answer those. Okay, thank you, Rachel. I see the first question. Can you tell us how to construct answers in describe, explain, and discuss? What are the differences? Okay, very interesting question. So you want to ask about the common word and how we can construct the answer um, differently. In fact, when it comes to describe, explain, discuss, or analyze, then the distinction is quite small. But I can categorize them into two groups. We have describe and explain. When you search for the words in dictionary, then they can say that for describe, it is about telling about the features or um, the appearance of something. It means that you need to try to stand from a third party perspective and make the most or yeah the most as objective as possible. While in explain, it is give the reasons for something. So again, it is kind of like objective perspective rather than um, subjective one. For discuss, it's, it's kind of like discussion. So in discussion, we give our opinion. The same apply to analyze. Analyze means also kind of like we need to break the things down and try to explain or describe their feature first, and then analyze about how can they applicable how can it be applicable or relevant to procurement or when we should use them. So that is analyze. Discuss means talk about something and give your personal opinion. While describe means giving the aspect and explain means giving the reasons. So I can say that we can actually divide these groups into two divide the word into two groups. So for describe and explain, you try to write about the features or the key features or the appearance or about how to use certain method or about certain pattern knowledge in your answer. While we discuss and analyze, then we go further than that. We still have the describe and explain part. We still need to tell them about the features of that part or of that model, for example. But we can give our own opinion. Like we think that the problem should be solved through this tool or not that one. Therefore, there is a small distinction between them. And however, in the exam, then the questions tend to be very specific. So I don't think there could be much different when they ask from different keywords. For example, they always ask you to explain certain things that are well defined, like explain the use of electronic procurement system. So they use the word explain. So the object here is very specific. For L4M8, then they can ask you explain different elements of whole life cycle costing, very specific. So you just need to give the reasons for different elements. But for certain scenarios, they can ask about discuss. Discuss here means you need to provide your own opinion and protect it. So they tend to be about certain problems, and you need to suggest the answer, right? And therefore, this is how the question is constructed differently. Okay, now as I see pretty many questions, I will answer them one by one. After the question from Rachel, then I have a question from Ida. Is it the same as explain procurement process? So to put in context, because typing is quite slow, and maybe I was talking about ship procurement cycle, and then is that asking like is it the same as procurement process? Yes and no. Yes and no. So we need to distinguish between a few things. First, the procurement cycle, and second, about the process. The cycle is a model. Ship procurement and supply cycle is a model. It is no process. It is just a tool. But all right, how can I say this? But kind of like when you want to buy a car, right, or when you want to buy a dress, for example, then first you look at its design, right? But then when it comes to the car, you need to drive it, or when it comes to the dress, you need to wash it, right? So looking at it and operating it is two different manners, two different notions. So the same to procurement cycle and procurement process. Procurement cycle means it is a model, it is kind of like a design, and you can apply that design or not. You can use that model or not. But the process is something well defined in your organization. It is something that you need to follow. If you don't, then you will have problems with the audit. Okay, so the process is a string or it is a consequence of steps of doing something. And normally we are talking about the formal process or structured process where every step are defined and documented. So they are enforced within an organization. Why procurement cycle is just a model. You can apply that model in your organization or not. Okay, so procurement cycle and structured procurement process are two different things. Okay, one is model, which we can learn from, and the second is something you need to do within the organization, and they apply a part of procurement governance, right? One is just academic, and the second procurement cycle is just an academic model, and the second one, the procurement process, is something practical and applied specifically to an organization. So you need to distinguish it to avoid the confusion when you write about structured procurement process. It is a process well documented, well defined, and applied to procurement within a specific organization. An example is your own company's procurement process, not procurement cycle. And procurement cycle is just a model which you can use or learn from, or you can apply just partially. All right, that is the second question. Now, uh, let me address the question from Cynthia. Can you please explain how we can construct answers in SIP procurement cycle without over explaining? Okay, so I'm to clarify, then I need to leave out or ignore the keywords and the use of example, right? Okay, so I just do this briefly. for ship procurement cycle, and especially when they ask you to describe certain stage, then you need to tell them three things. First, about the purpose of that stage. Second, about the activity that procurement does within that stage. And third, about the benefits if we do that stage correctly. And potentially the risk if we don't do that correctly, right? So maybe there are four things or four key pieces of information that you need to provide when it comes to describing procurement cycle. Um, Jolene, oh, sorry, Jolie. I think this question is very well explained in different in different events in my different events. So the thing is, you must read the specific question. The question could be quite unpredictable, but the specific question may provide you with the detail. They are very specific on their request. For example, they can ask you to describe certain stage, like describe stage number 5, 3, 9, or whatever. Or they can ask you to explain 5 stages of procurement cycle, or 5 pre-contract award stages of procurement cycle, or 5 post-contract award stages of procurement cycle. Sorry, there's no 5 stages, but post-contract award only has 4. So the question must be very specific and it should tell you what to do. So you must understand the request very carefully before put down your word. Yes, exactly. Because I looking at the questions in the chat, so I don't share any screen. It interfere me. Yeah, a question from Olsen. A question from Olsen. What should be the content of point master? For example, if I study system cycle and I'm at the point of defining business needs and develop expectation. Now, understand first thing, I understand that you have concern for the time. So this is a very legitimate concern, and everyone, every student, every candidate should be highly aware of time. So depending on specific wording of the question, they may ask you to describe 3, 4, 5, or whatever number of stage. Then you need to plan your answer accordingly. It means that when, for example, the question asks you to explain 5 stages of cyclical cycle, that is the first question. And now you have roughly 45 minutes for that question. Therefore, you have 45 divided by 5 is 9 minutes per per stage. So with only 9 minutes, you need to plan your answer accordingly. So you pose here, you need to make an outline of your answer. The outline could be like first, you need to tell them about the purpose. Second, the activity. Third, the benefit, and fourth, the risk. So just for just for outline like that, then you start develop the details. So with the first thing, and we have 9 minutes for that stage. Then we have four major outlines. So for each big dot like that, for each bullet point like that, then you have roughly 2 minutes. So you must be very aware of your time. For with 2 minutes, then for each part, you can write about, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 sentences if you are typing very fast. But just only 1 or 2 if you feel that you are slow typer. Now we all do the exam on the computer, so we all type, not write anymore. Therefore, for when you make an outline like that, then you can know what how much time you have for each outline, and then you can spend the time accordingly and plan your answer accordingly. So when the time is running out, you just finish with only one sentence. For example, when you only have 1 minute to finish the part about purpose of defining it, then you can just say like the purpose here is to understand the user requirements and produce a high level specification that can be used to communicate with the supplier. That's all. Okay, put an end there, and then you can spend the rest of your time to talk about the activities here. The activity tend to be the longest. So when you like the time, you just put them into a very short list with very short um, verb phrase verb phrases. Like in defining needs, we do the following. First, get the requisition from the end user. Second, improve the specification by inquiring different stakeholders, including blah blah blah. So making short sentences make capitalize can improve your answer and still provide the same level of details while we are short of time. So here, my point is always plan your answer, especially manage the time. And second, don't be greedy. Even if you feel like a big relief when the question is something you know very well, but the time is still the same. So the time is still the same. So you still need to provide um, the answer within the same time. And therefore, don't be greedy. That take the time to answer that part, which may take the time, which may take the time for other questions, and it may lower your performance overall. So must be very careful and plan your answer accordingly. Okay, a very specific question from NG. Describe how a procurement professional could apply the environmental, social, and governance ESG credentials of a supplier after contract award. Yeah, actually, I think we should do that before contract award in pre-contract award stages. But when we only have after, when we only have post-contract award here, then the major concern here should be on contract performance. So when it comes to post-option, what is not apply the credential anymore? It is unnecessary. But we can switch to contract management. And there are a few ways to do this. We can just rely on some key tools. The first thing is the KPI. KPI and SOA. We can set out a few ESG KPI, like the KPI on environment, KPI on social matters, and KPI on governance, or we can use the balanced scorecard, okay, summarize about ESG. And beyond KPI, we also have the supplier meeting or with supplier audit to check whether they perform the right thing as we specify in the contract or not. Also, monitoring for news reports, and also if you have a long-term contract, um, term contract, for example, then their previous credential like certificate in ESG or something equivalent could expire, and then you can request them to submit the most updated certificate when it comes to when their previous one is expired. So I think this is the purpose of this question. That's the purpose of this question. And therefore, it's mostly about check the real performance, real world performance of the software rather than just continuing monitoring their credential, which could be outdated. Yeah, Cynthia, I think it's very interesting question. How to answer the question that requires you to explain the relevance of procurement cycle to achieving value for money. So for this question, here is my plan. If this is the question, here is my plan. First, we need to understand what does it mean by value for money. So we need to define what does it mean by value for money. Value for money could be defined in two ways. First, it could be a combination of for E, economic effectiveness, efficiency, and equity, or it could be the price rise plus other added value. So the procurement cycle is a tool for achieving value for money, or as I said previously, it is a model that you can apply to get value for money. And procurement cycle suggests a lot of actions or activity that potentially deliver the value for money. For example, in defining it, then we can from defining it, then we can achieve the right quality, right? From the documentation and contract within stage number five, then we can achieve the right time and right place if we manage that well. So SIP procurement cycle is a model suggesting different activities that could assist procurement in achieving the value for money. And it provides very specific and also actionable steps for value for money. That is relevant here. Another question from Tondani. If they ask about three pre-contract stages and two post-contract award stages, and there is a chronological order that one cover. It doesn't matter as long as you can describe the five stages as required, then all of your answer will be marked. So doesn't matter whether you present it in chronological order or not. It doesn't matter. Just describe correctly three pre-contract award stages and two post-contract award stages. That's fine. Another question from Eva. What are ESG policies and how are they important? All right. So yeah, ESG policies are part of company strategy for sustainable development and sustainability. Therefore, it's kind of like part of governance. And when it comes to governance, you should know that it's kind of like we have a structure apply from the strategy, and then they provide the policy, and then we have the processes and procedure, and then the execution. So policy is something in between, and it is pretty high flex. Normally, policy define what we can do, what activity we should engage, and what activity or what subject we should avoid. Therefore, ESG policy delineates the limit or potential actions, activities that procurement should take to deliver the ESG objective and strategy. So they play an important role as they define the actions and also potentially some short-term objectives that procurement and the organization should deliver. And they are also the basis for designing the processes and procedures, and so they guide the execution of the policies that ensure the achievement of ESG objectives. So that my that is my draft. That is my suggestion here. Okay. Yeah. Cynthia, I think that you are very good at raising questions. If you are given financial data on potential equipment supplier and asked to evaluate the financial position, how do you answer data, uh, including current ratio, gear ratio, and net profit ratio? So with this kind of question, and they also provide the data on specific supplier, I think that the answer is pretty straightforward. We just need to compare the financial position with the desired outcome. And also, you can compare between, among different suppliers. So, the current ratio, for example, you can see that first, you can compare their result with the desired result. The desired result is capitalized more than one. And you can look at them, like they may have 0.8, 0.9, or 0.7 or 1.1. So you can check calculate the average value. How much is the average value? If the supplier is performing above the average value, it is outcompete its competitors. So it is better. And even better, if it has the value, if it has the ratio result higher than the design result, then that is good and they are performing well. We don't have the risk here. So the method here is calculate about uh, comparing the result with the average result and with the desired outcome. This, this principle follows in all of the type of ratio. Current ratio, gear ratio, net profit ratio, the same thing. So just compare the result with two things. First, average result for that ratio, and second, the compared to the desired outcome. For each ratio, you should set out a threshold. Like for current ratio, the result should be more than one, not one, but more than one, like 1.1 or 1.2. That's great. For gearing ratio, normally they use the number for total debt to total equity. So the result here should be less than 100%. It means like the total debt is less than total equity. So we should look at the number from different software and to see whether they are performing above this threshold. And for net profit ratio, then the result, the desired outcome should be positive, and the higher the better. And also it depends on the industry average as well. So for net profit ratio, then I don't have any recommended result as long as they are positive, but they should be above average. So we should compare the net profit margin with the average. So for the question like this, then you should make specific comment on each supplier separately, and you may put your own final overall recommendation whether we should select that supplier or not. Okay, so that is my suggestion for this. Okay, so just continue. I can see that from the beginning, then there are two major concerns. First, about the procurement cycle, and second, about ESG. That's great, but we have more than L4M8 has more than those two questions. Cynthia writes pretty interesting question about financial ratio. But do you have any other concern about other parts? You can see that I summarize potential questions here, like about the uh, benefit of precise specification or market analysis tool, or about tendering process, or about supplier identification and appraisal. And if question number three, we could have the question about decommissioning and disposal process, all about the hidden cost, all about business gain and how to get the signal measurement support. And in question number four, we could have the question about SIP code conduct and its application, right? But from the beginning, I don't see anyone has such concern. SIP exam or L4M8 exam doesn't have only one or two questions. We have four, and you should pay attention equally. Now, let me see how you can raise questions about other parts. For now, I won't answer any questions regarding SIP procurement cycle anymore. That's a basic thing, and I already addressed them before. Now, you can ask me about other parts. Financial ratio, yeah, that's great. Also about different market analysis tools, or about supplier relationship management, about different contract terms, express terms, about getting senior management support, and so on. Continue. We have more than just procurement cycle. So prepare your exam accordingly, not just focusing on that topic. You need to you need to prepare for more than that. You need to prepare for potential topics. Yeah, Tandani, I think that could be the reason. And it's your opportunity to dig deeper. Okay, I may give you a few minutes to scan through the book and look at those potential questions. Uh, Rachel, yeah, SIP asked about financial calculation. They have two ways. First, they already give you the specific ratio, and you just need to make the comment. But there are other questions where they give you a table and ask you to calculate by yourself and make comment by yourself. So prepare for both. Now, I may show you the list of questions again. Normally, then question number two tend to have the greatest range of questions. So it is the most unpredictable. And the list here, I don't think it is exhaustive and including all potential topics. So you can scan through the book again and look at potential parts that become SIP questions. The question number three. This is question number four. Yeah, I think I get a few questions. Okay, thank you, Isa. I think you also know how to write the question. First, about the factors that affect SRM. Right, very interesting question. And normally I talk about the process, and today you ask about the factors. So, SRM is a process that we engage and manage the relationship with the supplier. And the purpose here is to get the best benefits and eventually get some competitive edge from the relationship. Like we can get better technology or higher service level, higher service standard from the supplier, or it could be about getting the reduced costs and so on from the supplier. So with the SRM, with supplier relationship management, then I think that there are two major factors that affect uh, our relationship. First, it is kept by our perspective about them, our opinion about them, the buyer's opinion about the supplier. And second is the reverse, the supplier's opinion about the buyer. A strong relationship is only possible when it is reciprocal. It means like the relationship is two-way. So I think these are two factors. And for the process, then first we need to, yeah, we need to categorize the relationship based on a few models, like using quantic portfolio matrix and supplier frequency matrix, where we can identify the most important supplier and also they like us or potentially like us, like the buyer. And then we can engage with the most important supplier that has positive opinion about the buyer. And then we can engage in different activities that may improve the relationship, like joint project or gain share agreement, and so on. Okay, so that is supplier relationship management. Another question from Rachel. What question have they asked about contract terms? This kind of question was very popular 1 or 2 years now, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when we still use 2018 uh, syllabus. Um, During that period, then in question number two, they love to ask about different or five express terms in the contract. They ask about the use of five express terms in the contract, including indemnity, exclusion of liability, liquidated damages, the retention title or romantic clause, termination, and arbitration. You can totally up, look them up within the study guide. Okay, I don't remember the page, but they are still there. They list and explain a few express terms in the contract. And this could be quite, unfortunately, quite challenging question because it requires you to have some legal knowledge and also apply what you know from L4 3 in this part. So if it appears again, then I think it will be very challenging question. Okay, I can share a little bit about that question. Yeah, not this slide, but another one. This one. Yeah, the part about the express contract terms were it was quite popular 2 and 3 years ago, but now they tend to ask more about different criteria in contract award or about contract management method or about supplier relationship management. So when you see this kind of question, normally they don't have any scenario and they just ask you to explain the term identity, exclusion, liquidated damages, and so on. So you need to prepare. Um, each each term is used differently. For example, indemnity is a promise to hold harmless or to compensate the other party when some event happens. And the event here could be anything from the negligence to the to some fault that cause damages or injury to a third party or to the buyer. So essentially, the indemnity is a transfer of risk where we define the risky event which can happen and the consequences. The consequences. The thing is, we can define it like we can expand the scope of indemnity. Like if the supplier is negligent and cause the damages or injury to a third party or to the buyer, then they will be responsible for any damages or losses or other or any other cost arising from that event. That is how indemnity defined in each contract, and they tend to be part. They tend to be a part that has a lot of negotiation and dispute. Second, we have the exclusion of liability. So this excludes the breaching party from the secondary obligation or from the damages in certain cases. In other words, then for this kind of clause to be applied, then first the other party. Sorry, I have a phone call. Sorry, I just have a phone call. Yeah, let me continue. Um, with the part on different extract contact terms, then that could be a pretty challenging part. And it's like I don't think they explain it well, especially in legal terms. So if you want to improve, then uh, you can read from my presentation here. So here with exclusion and liquidated damages, they are the same thing. For them to be applied, then first the other party must have a breach of contract. It means like, for example, you want your supplier to deliver by Monday, but on Monday they don't deliver anything. So it must be until Wednesday, then they deliver the goods. The thing is, exclusion doesn't require them to have any form of compensation, although they have a breach. It is defined here. It is set out in the contract because there are some certain events beyond their control that prevent them from performing the contract, like there an earthquake or some storm along the way, so they can deliver. But liquidated damages are different. It is a class that predefines the obligation, and the breaching party must pay for the damages, but they must only pay for predefined value, not something must subject to the court assessment or legal litigation or litigation assessment. So liquidated damages capitalize part capitalize an attempt to predefine the potential loss, and to be applicable, then it should be genuine estimate of loss. There are other clauses, something like romanta. This is the retention of title, termination, or it could be applicable when we want to define the scenarios where the potential supplier or the supplier has committed very serious breach, and we want to have the right to terminate with them and start with another supplier, or arbitration, which is a dispute resolution mechanism. So arbitration is different from litigation. Both are enforceable in the eye of law, but arbitration is more preferable. It is quick, legally binding, and objective since we involve a professional third party. But to be applicable, then the arbitration must be presented in the contract. It must be stipulated in the contract. Without stipulation, then the contract parties must resort to other way of dispute resolution, like negotiation or litigation. So to be applicable, then arbitration must be an express term. Yeah, I can just provide brief description like that. And I strongly recommend that you should look at the part in the study guide. And thank you, Julian, for the information. The correct terms are from page 101 in the study guide. You should look at that. Without preparation, then all of us can fail, unfortunately. So not just procurement cycle, but also other parts, especially this. It can be quite challenging. Now, another question from Ida. Briefly explain ways of disposing an asset. Right. When it comes to disposal, then I don't think we have different ways, but we can have a process. Um, the disposal, maybe if you are talking about the way, then we could bury it under the earth or under the dirt. So that is landfill, or we can burn it down. That is another way of disposal. Or we can throw it into the water, or we can throw it into the ocean. That is also disposal. But we don't talk about that here because any way that dispose the assets could be damaging to the environment. So we should have a process to control the damage. For disposal, then the process here should start with planning, right? We should know who to engage with and potentially contract a professional third party or supplier to take care of the disposal. They know how to dispose and recycle this equipment, so we can contract them. Second, it is about decommissioning, and we need to unplug everything and disassemble that. Unplug everything and disassemble the asset, and then categorize the parts. Some parts could be recycled, like scrap metal or paper. Some parts must be disposed, like rushed or some unusable parts. And some other parts must be treated with care, like lubricant and other toxic chemical. So we need to categorize them and then treat them differently. For recyclable, then of course we can recycle them. For unrecyclable, then we can send them to the landfill, but we need to limit that. And for toxic chemical, then we don't send them anywhere, but we must hire a professional third party to handle that. They know how to process that. For example, lubricant and used oil could be could go through the distillery again, or could go through the refinery again, and they become lubricant and other oil-based products without harming the environment. So that is the disposal process, right? We need to go through a process and handle different parts with care. Also, we can treat them differently and reduce the impact to the environment. Now, another question: how can we improve poor SRM? I don't really understand the question. Do you mean how do we fix a poor relationship, or how do we fix a poor process of managing the relationship? Uh, please specify. You want to fix a relationship, already corrupted relationship, or already affected relationship, which both supplier and buyer doesn't want to work anymore. Yeah, okay, much better. How do you improve poor relationship? So for poor relationship, then you should understand why it reached current condition, why it becomes so poor, or it becomes so bad. Understand the reasons here, but most likely then for business to business relationship, the distrust arise from unequal or unfair distribution of benefits. That could be a reason, or it could be like the vicious cycle of blame. The supplier may blame you for something you don't do, and then you are upset with them, so it damages the relationship. Or any other, there could be other reasons, but I cannot list all of them here. So to fix this, then we need to address the problem. We need to address the reason, and then we can start with a promise to improve, and we can restart the relationship by setting clear KPI and clear expectation of each other, and then we can monitor it again. If the relationship continues to fail, then just consider to terminate it. It is not worth anymore. A question from Stanley: how do you maximize scores in scenario-based questions? Right. With scenario-based, then the key here, the major point here is to make the make the answer relevant to a scenario, and you must refer to the scenario whenever possible. You can say about some point, like you can have the disposal of an asset and it is within a scenario. So to maximize your score, you need to refer to the asset in the scenario and refer to specific parts of characters within scenario. That would work magic. So they understand that you read the scenario and you understand the problem in scenario and now you are able to solve it. So they may award you with extra score. That's all. Next, can you explain procurement sustainability? I don't think we have procurement sustainability, but we have the concept of sustainability. And um, the United Nations has several sustainable development goals or SDG. They clearly define what does it mean by sustainability. So sustainability by concept it is development without affecting the ability of future generations to develop. It means like we don't overuse the resources, we don't damage the assets for future generations, and we use the resources with care so that it doesn't affect our children and their children. Within an organization, sustainability means the triple bottom line: planet, people, and profit. We still need to get a profit so that we have the economic sustainability. Sustainability means like we can sustain ourselves. So positive profitability is sustainable. But we don't pursue profit at any cost. We also pay attention to planet and people. So planet means the environment, the earth. So it means that we don't use the resource wastefully, but we use that responsibly and reinvest in the environment. Also, we reinvest in the society, make them a make it a better place to live. That is sustainability. A question from Rachel, how does whole life asset management differ between private, public, and third sector and in different industries? All right. So first, when it comes to whole life asset management, you need to understand that it's a process. All right. We purchase the asset, we manage them, we maintain them, and then we dispose them. It is a process that happens along the life of that asset. And with public, private, and third sector, there are key distinctions in their structure, in their funding, and in their objectives. So that leads to the differences in whole life asset management. For public, then they are publicly owned. Their assets are not personal assets, they are not organizational assets, but they are the public assets. Okay, the assets that belong to the people of that country. So they have different level of accountability, and also the impact of those assets could be pretty big. For example, you can think public assets as something like a dam or a dike. They are the assets, or community center. They are the assets. They are the building. And however, they have very huge importance in the public life. The dam or the dike or the building could provide shelter or could protect the community against the risk of flood and the risk of heavy raining. So they play an important role. Therefore, the asset user, like the public agency, should have more accountability toward the public. But for private sector, because they are privately owned and normally they have the shareholders. So they are responsible toward the shareholder, and they also need to use the assets that may generate the income, that generate the positive income in its lifetime. Therefore, in private sector, then when they decide to invest in certain assets, they need to assess the return on investment. While in public sector, then return on investment sometimes is not necessary. Sometimes it is relevant, but most of the time it is unnecessary. And the return on in public sector could be indirect. There's no direct benefit of building a dam, okay, on a river. But there are several indirect benefits, like it can protect the downstream, it can protect the local community, it can help them to prosper and free from fear of flood. So all of them are indirect benefits. Therefore, in assessing assets and assets management in public sector, then we should understand that there are several indirect benefits rather than direct benefits like in private sector. Okay, that's a key point. With third sector, they have different objectives. Although they are privately owned, but they have different objectives from private sector. So the key distinction here is about how they buy and how they manage the asset. For third sector, then they also don't pay attention much to return on investment as long as the assets provide the benefit to the community that they want to have or provide benefits to the members. So I think mostly about the objective and also on how they take accountability toward that asset. Within different industry, then the decision could be pretty huge. For example, we can compare between retail and manufacturing. Then the asset here could be different in type. In retail, then they invest in the warehouse, they invest in the brick and mortar place or store. In manufacturing, they invest in the factory, they invest in the equipment and the vehicle. Okay, so the asset class here are pretty different, right? And I think mostly about that. And for the rest, they also apply the same principle. We need to purchase them, we need to operate them, we need to maintain them, and we need to dispose them when they run out their lifetime. So that is my explanation for this question. All right. So for today, I think we have had a pretty productive session where I attempted to address several questions from you. And we should, as I said, look beyond certain part of the guide and look at the guide as a whole. Look at other parts, look at other topics, and prepare for every potential question that may come in the exam. So thank you very much for your participation today. And I hope that we may have other sessions like this where we have high level engagement and also pretty productive. Remember that my inbox is always open for any concern from students. So just email us at evocument@evocument.edu.vn and also on WhatsApp, as I show on my screen here. Yeah, so thank you very much for your participation and see you in other events. I shall upload this recording later to our website and YouTube. Okay, that's all for today. Goodbye.